Okay, here we go. So I'm by myself today, and this is episode 83, but we're going to do it live. You know what I'm saying? Bill O'Reilly style. Got a couple questions that came in. We wanted to get an episode out there. Chris got monkeypox again, fourth time, but this time it's really crushing him, so he can't really get out of bed. So we decided to just do an episode at my house by myself. But we got some questions that came in for the podcast, so I figured I could maybe answer a couple of them, and then I will give you the best medical advice possible. So I'm just going to kick it off. Episode 83, we're doing it. First question is, are you wasting an upper belt's time when rolling with them? So this is coming from someone, excuse me, this is coming from someone that's a white belt, and they feel like they are wasting black belts, brown belts' time, specifically those two belts, when they roll with them. Super common thought. And I even have that myself with some of the black belts at our gym. Myself being a black belt, thinking that I'm wasting their time rolling with them, because I feel like there's some of the black belts in our gym, I get destroyed. It's paddling season and my butt is in the air, if you know what I'm saying. Now, I kind of got called out on this because I was avoiding the rolls. I would literally avoid rolling with a lot of the tough black belts in the gym. And that's not to say that there's the ones I would roll with are not tough. It's just there's some that, styles are so important, because there's going to be some people that, let's say, do really well with everybody, but with one person or a certain couple people, they actually don't do super well with, when that person actually doesn't do well with everyone. So it's like this odd, it's like MMA math. It never makes sense. Some people just do well with others, and there's a handful that I just get Marcellus Wallace every single time. And I started feeling like, do they even want to roll with me? It wasn't like I was afraid of losing or that I was necessarily embarrassed or anything. It was just, actually, there was a little embarrassment, but it was more like I literally felt like I was wasting their time. Like it's a rest round for them. And I felt bad that they're just going to mollywop me. But I got called on the carpet, and it was something I found out that, like, no, you're not a wrestler. Even if you are, someone that, like, you roll with someone and you're just losing the whole time. Being an upper belt, you will start to have that with especially newer people, right? And lower belts. Well, I roll probably 70% of the time with lower belts, and it's not totally because I just like winning. There might be a little bit of that, but I get to actually practice stuff that when I go with black belts or I go with brown belts, or even tough purple belts, I don't even get to work on a lot of positions or moves, skill acquisition, right? So, and I've talked about this before, but, when I'm going with those lower belts, I absolutely get something out of it, because I'm going to intentionally work. Let's say if it's a really new, like a white belt or something like that, or a blue belt, I'm going to put myself in positions that I couldn't even come close to working out of. Let's say if it's a defensive position, I'm going to let myself get put in a deep triangle. And sorry, my top is falling down. Whoop, easy. So I will allow myself to, now you're going to have to earn the position. Like, I don't just allow myself to get tapped or anything like that. That's just not in me for whatever reason. I know some people, they'll allow themselves to get tapped a whole bunch. For whatever reason, I got the big ass ego and I don't do that. But what I will do is, if they do the right moves to get into, let's say, a triangle, I'm not going to fight as hard as I normally would to not allow that triangle position. And now that I'm in a triangle with, let's say, a blue belt, they don't have the technique and finishing capabilities that, let's say, a black belt has. And I can work my deep submission escape. And once that gets better, I can then start working that with a purple belt and then a brown belt and then a black belt. And that's the same with offensive positions as well. If I'm working on a new guard or something like that, I'll do it and I'll start working it on the lower belts because I ain't even going to get close to starting nothing on a black belt. It's just, I mean, there's some guys out there that can do that. Ain't me, you know? So going back to it is you're not wasting time if you're rolling with an upper belt. If you're nervous about it, there might be certain upper belts that just don't, you can get the vibe. They're like, they don't roll with the lower belts, which is, if that's their thing, that's their thing, whatever, you know what I'm saying? But you'll kind of identify that and you'll understand who those people are. And then you just don't roll with those people. Every gym has certain people that you're just not going to roll with. And because their energy's bad, their style, just, whatever, there's something there and that's totally fine. There's more fish in the sea. You know what I'm saying? So don't feel like you're wasting time if you're a lower belt asking an upper belt. If you're at a gym where they don't allow you to ask upper belts, that's dumb. That's poo-poo. And I would consider, I'm not saying that's the only thing to consider moving gyms, but I absolutely would take note and then I would look for other red flags in that gym because that is some BS. If there's like this weird hierarchy where you're not supposed to ask an upper belt to roll, that is so old, like that's gone. That should not even be in the gyms anymore in my opinion, at least. So I hope that helps with that one. I'm just going to keep moving on. We have effective ways to learn from instructionals and YouTube content. Effective ways to learn from instructionals and YouTube content or strategies developed from content like that. So when I purchase a new instructional, which I am guilty, like most of us, where I purchase a lot of instructionals, BJJ Fanatics and Jiu-Jitsu X and stuff like that. And YouTube's obviously got a ton on there. But when I'm really like going to deep dive on something, I try to, let's say it's a YouTube video or a section of an instructional. I will try to not blow through the whole thing right away. I think a lot of the time, this is what I did in the beginning. And when people I've talked to, they'll watch a couple hours, just crush that. Or maybe they will watch an hour straight and then they're just going through the sections. And then they try to go back to, when they go to training, they try to implement it. And you're like, I mean, if you watch an hour of instructionals, and depending on who it is, so let's say you have a John Danaher, he has very lengthy explanations. But then if you have Mikey Musumeci, he has pretty lengthy explanations as well. And he has a lot of conceptual stuff, Mikey Musumeci does. But then if you have someone like the Meow Brothers, their instructionals are more bite size. Okay. So in an hour, you might have got just like pure concept with a couple moves, or you might have got with the Meow Brothers, you might get a ton of actual moves. You're not remembering any of that. You're going to start conflating moves and like putting like, was it this and this? And I did this one over here. And then I started doing this one, but there wasn't, he said, it's done. You become full blown retarded. And well, at least I do. I'm not saying you're retarded. I'm saying I'm at least a quarter. And my hairline proves it, right? Look at that. That is some George Costanza jealousy. So I would say try to watch, like if you're going to watch like a large section because you're excited, you just got it. It's like, sweet, that's cool. But you're going to have to go back. Like pause at a certain point, go back before class, because a lot of time you buy it, you're watching it in bed or something like that on the weekend. Refresh yourself, go back, watch it again. Like do these things in chunks. I do try to, I do it in really small sections. So let's say like I use the Meow Brothers as an example, or Margot Ciccarelli. See, they will do smaller 4-minute sections for things. And then what I do is I will watch I'll watch a few of them, but then before class, I'll watch 1 or 2 of those again, especially if they're connected. So then I'm going to, right before class, I have it a little bit more fresh. And then I'm going to be absolutely like a psychopath about trying to just do that. Now, you're going to still do the drilling that your professor's showing you in class and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to sparring time or situationals, I'm probably going to just, well, if situationals allows it, I'm probably going to just do what that instructional was. And a lot of time, it's not the full move. A lot of time, you're going to just do like an entry and then hold the position. So for example, if it was collar sleeve, you're starting to learn collar sleeve guard, you're going to you need to be able to get into the guard. So pull in, like get into your position and just try holding that new position that you're super unfamiliar with. If you're familiar with the position already, but you're just trying to clean it up, you're trying to add skills to it or something like that, then what you can do is you already got into it, you know how to get there, but like shrink jiu-jitsu down. Make it so you're only going after this 1 or 2 techniques, and then try to live in that little world there. See why it's not working. See why it is working. Make sure you roll with the lower belts. Don't just try it on the brown belt and then get your butthole pushed in. And then out of nowhere, you're going to be like, well, you know what? Paulo Meow sucks. He doesn't know shiza, and he's, teaches bad technique, when that's probably not it. You just tried it on someone that is skilled and you've never tried this technique, and you're just starting to learn how to do it. Not saying don't try it on an upper belt, but just have some perspective. You know what I'm saying? You might suck at jiu-jitsu already, so then you start throwing in new techniques, you're just going to suck more for a little bit. So embrace the suck, but shrink jiu-jitsu down. My strategy that I like to do is going in with very small sections, and I'll stay on a couple sections for a few classes, because something that can happen is you can do it, you have a little bit of success, or you don't, and then you move on. So you did one class where it's like, okay, I'm going to work on this, and you work on it and you did great. Oh my gosh, that's awesome. I just did what Bill from Grappling with Podcast said. I went to the class and I just worked on that one sweep and I nailed that sweep twice. Then the next class comes in 2 days later, because you train 3 days a week, and you moved on. You're like, oh, I'm going to do the next technique. No, that was not a German wave that I just did there. I went like this. So don't freeze frame that, please. For the audio listeners, I did a little throwback to the 1940s on accident. But so don't just move on. Stick with it. You're not going to catch something. Have you ever learned anything from one class? Like just from your professor? No, not even shrimping. Half the people don't even know how to shrimp, and they might be purple belts. Can we be real for a second? Okay. So just stick with it longer than you think. Okay. Now this is just my perspective. I'm sure there's black belts screaming at me right now and saying that, oh, I totally disagree. You can keep on moving. That's fine. Go for it. This is just what worked for me. I progressed pretty quickly. If I had a little dinger bell, just like Chris has his little bell for mentioning his book, if I mention that I progressed quickly, I get a little bell too. So that's just that's what worked for me. Now there was also a second comment that was instructionals that I recommend, or favorites. So I talked to Olivia about this, I already know how Chris would answer, so I'll kind of speak for him. He'll probably listen to this, and he, on the next episode, can correct me if I'm wrong, but or he can add something. But I think I know at least one that he would mention. Now, Olivia, she actually likes Margot Ciccarelli's the Underworld Underhook de la Hiva series. That's a pretty complicated positioning. I wouldn't recommend that for you new practitioners. I would say you need to have some sort of base knowledge before you start really getting into this one. But Margot Ciccarelli also has another one, which is actually quite good for beginners and up, and that's an off-balance instructional. You can find it on jujitsux.com. Now, that one I find pretty good because you're going to use off-balances all the time. In the beginning, you don't even understand what an off-balance is. You're just kind of like knocking people. You don't even knock people. You don't even off-balance people, honestly. In the beginning, you're just trying to do a single move. Like, it's very linear, right? As you get better, you start to realize the push-pull methodology, and then you start realizing that to do anything, you have to set it up, especially as the opponents get higher level. So you're going to have to work off balances to set up submissions, or you're going to have to set up submission attempts to set up your sweeps, and vice versa. And then it all comes in a circle. You do an off balance, which sets up a submission attempt, which the failed submission attempt sets up the sweep, which then goes into a submission attempt, right? So there's all these pathways, and it almost always starts with what you call, like, you'll hear the word kazushi, which is just off balance. So I would say that's a pretty good one too. And Olivia really likes that. She mentioned that one as well. Also, Andres, I think it's Bernokovsky. I hardly know her. Lapelapalooza on Jiu-Jitsu X as well. That's a pretty good one. It's not as huge and robust as the Lapel Encyclopedia from Keenan Cornelius, but it does have some really applicable stuff. And the stuff that he does, I don't find it to be as complicated. I find it actually to be really digestible, and he explains stuff really well. That's not throwing any shade at Keenan or anything like that. They're, training partners, and they both, I think, co-own Legion Jiu-Jitsu. But he is fantastic at explaining stuff, and I would say that's a really good one. Going into another advanced technique, Olivia's trying to sneak in the room, but I see her. Another advanced technique, I would say, or instructional, is Tommy Langacker, Enter the Matrix. This one is on Jiu-Jitsu X as well. I'll be talking about other platforms, not just Jiu-Jitsu X. But if you're interested, if you're a Berimbolo guy, you like inverting, you find yourself maybe working K-guard a little bit, I would say the Enter the Matrix is quite good. It changed my game quite a bit. I naturally invert quite a bit, and I have a kind of a small man jiu-jitsu, and I found that his instructional on doing K-guard entries, matrix entries, another honorable mention is going to be John Thomas, BJJ, on Instagram and YouTube. I think he explains stuff extremely well. Training partner Jason Himstead actually turned me to him a couple of years back, and it's fantastic. Lucas Lepre, black belt. But Tommy's instructional, it changed my game. It was absolutely awesome for that kind of stuff. Olivia picked out Hodger Gracie's close guard. So I had a goal of doing close guard at the beginning of the year. That was my New Year's resolution. And now it's become a thing where people force me to put them in close guard because my close guard sucks so much, and I never do it. So that's pretty stupid and pretty embarrassing. And it still sucks. But some of the stuff he has in there is absolutely fantastic. I'm not as huge of a fan of how he explains stuff. That's just me. I don't think it's, you know, I don't really have much of a reason. It's just something how he talks doesn't. I'm not saying like you people how he talks. I'm saying like I don't know. My brain's dumb and he's smart or something. I don't know. It's hard for me to track sometimes. But Olivia actually really liked it quite a bit. Then we have Nachieli the Jesus Lasso of Truth. The Hodger Gracie one is on bjjfanatics.com. Just a heads up on that. But Nachieli the Jesus Lasso of Truth on Jiu-Jitsu X. Really, really good. If you play Lasso, you want to clean up your Lasso, or you want to start playing Lasso, super in-depth, great content on there. Something you're going to notice the biggest difference between Jiu-Jitsu X and BJJ Fanatics is the quality of the recordings. BJJ Fanatics looks like it was filmed in a garage, and it sounds like it was filmed in a garage, because I think it is. And the production quality is ridiculously bad. Now, I'm not saying that as I'm not saying that to be mean. I'm saying that because they make a butthole ton of money, and being someone that is a photographer and videographer, I know they could do better. Like, simple as that. They could absolutely do better, and I don't know why they don't. Personally, because the setup I have here is like, I'm just in my room with like, this is natural light. Like, I have some lights here that I was going to set up. Look at this bad boy. Yep. I was going to set that guy up right there. I was going to try. And then I got another one right here. Thought about it. Didn't work out. Forgot some cables and at work, and I wasn't able to do it. So I'm just using natural light, and I made this thing black and white. So it's just be a little creative. That's all I'm saying. The audio's kind of poopy as well. Jiu-Jitsu X, you get clean audio, you get multiple, as well as you get like high quality HD. It's like in a all white room. It's just, the production quality is much better. The instructors on there are great. Both have great instructors, honestly. And ultimately, if you get past, like, I'm being super snobby and bougie about the quality, but if you get, if you get an instructional on BJJ Fanatics, you're still going to get what you need out of it. I'm just being a little bit of a snobby biatch right now. So then you get another one that I recommend, and I do have a kind of a large list, so I apologize about that, is Nakapan. I can't say his last name. Some sort of Thai name or something like that. It's Foot Sweeps of Fury. Now, I was hoping this was going to have more in it, but it has really, really good stuff in it. It's pretty much, it made my Kouchi game, which is an inside foot sweep. It literally made that game, and that is a huge part of what I do in the stand-up now, because we have a judo black belt, a jiu-jitsu black belt named Clinton at our gym. He really kind of expanded my game even more. But the drills that I got from this instructional was like what really got me on the path and started me in my making it so I have at least somewhat of a stand-up game. Now my stand-up game is absolutely poo-poo, but at least there's something there. And this was a big instructional for it. Like I said, I wish there was more to it, but the drills that you'll get from it and the explanation is quite good. Then Mikey Musumeci's Berimbolo and Footlocks instructionals on BJJ Fanatics. The Foot Sweeps of Fury is on Jiu-Jitsu X. Mikey Musumeci's are on BJJ Fanatics. The Berimbolo was very good. Like I said, more lengthy. He's going to be very wordy. He's got the most severe ADD you've seen in anything in your life. So he'll kind of get distracted, but you don't care. It's absolutely awesome. I like how he explains things with one world, two worlds. It's pretty much, if let's say they have this reaction, that means you don't have to think about all this other crap. If they give you this reaction, then it's almost like you're compartmentalizing stuff. Stop thinking about this over here. Just know that this is all you have to worry about. Now, if they have this reaction over here, then you don't think about that stuff. You only have to worry about this. And I really like how he explains that. That really helped quite a bit. And his footlock, the butterfly ashi stuff, the finishing techniques, I mean, it is absolutely tremendous. And it works at the highest level. You know, he won his finals, world's finals with ankle lock. He's probably got 7 ankle lock finishes at worlds at the black belt level. So, you know, his ankle lock is absolutely legit. And he's doing that against the lightest guys, which typically have the most bendy, gumby feet in the world. So yes, so battery died. Mikey Musumeci is doing this against the most bendy people ever. So I think that's just proof in the pudding that it works. So those are some of our favorites right there. I would say Chris, he would probably say, is John Danaher. He really likes them. He has, I think, all of them. Which means he's basically sent John Danaher on vacation. Now with that though, so he's very long-winded. If you can handle that, absolutely fantastic. Some of the best stuff you'll ever hear, whether it's conceptual or even the techniques. He has old man jiu-jitsu, which is perfect. Not just if you're older, but if you just are not very athletic, it's absolutely like awesome. His low risk feet to floor stuff. So, what that means is takedowns that don't rely on a ton of athleticism. They rely on some timing and they're low risk. And what I mean by low risk is they will not, like expose, let's say, your back for a judo throw, like a turning throw, like a tayatoshi or an uchimata or a seonagi or something like that, where you have to turn your back to actually complete the throw. And you have to get back to chest. He shows variations that are super low risk. So I think he would mention all the Danaher instructionals as the ones that he likes the most. Honorable mentions are going to be AOJ Plus, which is a subscription website. So you'd pay 20 or 25 bucks a month. You can watch some of their class footage of how they run their class. You can watch, they have a ton of technique stuff on there. They have sparring footage. I get a lot out of watching sparring footage myself because you're watching them apply techniques in real time. So you get to see real reactions. So it's good to watch technique videos, but watching sparring and competition footage is, in my opinion, maybe more beneficial than watching technique videos. If you can even record yourself, it's huge. Now tell your partner you're going to record them. Don't be an asshole and record yourself against someone and they don't know it. That's a pretty butthead move to do that, to sneak filming teammates. Even if you don't have like a malicious intent, it's just poopy. It's poor form, if you will. Especially if you later use that as like a highlight on Instagram or something like that. That's or on your website or something like that. That's pretty stinky. So ask them. Just be like, hey, do you mind if I record this? I'm doing it for my own studying. I won't post it anywhere. Or if you're going to post it, say, you'd be like, yeah, I just want to have some content for Instagram or something but I also want to watch my roles. And then expect that if you're going to post on Instagram that your partner might go harder because they don't want you to like make a highlight reel out of them. But that's fine. You want to have real experience, real defenses to what you're trying to do. And you want to be able to analyze that. But watching other people's stuff, I think, is absolutely huge. Watching competition footage, that helps learning the rules and seeing what the best of the best are doing. So that's AOJ Plus. Lapel Encyclopedia, if you want to get into lapel, absolutely awesome. Super in-depth, ton of stuff in there. A lot of stuff you're not going to use, but it's just good to get the whole ecosystem in there. I do recommend not going into the lapel stuff until later on. What I mean by later on is like blue belt. What can happen is that you can start to do lapel at white belt, then you'll become super successful with it, and you'll actually start to like be successful against upper belts as a white belt, because it's such a unique niche thing that it'll feel so good that you're like, oh my goodness, I'm like sweeping purple belts. Well, what's going to happen is they're going to learn the defense faster than you learn all the other jiu-jitsu stuff. And when they learn how to defend that, you're going to get Marcellus Wallace again and again and again. And then you're going to have all these huge holes in your game. So even though you're now a blue belt, you have a good lapel game, your other areas are going to be poo-poo, stinky poo-poo. So I recommend, if you're going to get into the lapel world, now maybe learn squid guard or something, like something that is easily transferable to other moves. Squid guard is basically omoplata position with the lapel. It's easy to get into. It's not super complicated. But learning the whole ecosystem and stuff like that, I don't know if that's, if I would recommend that. And that's coming from a lapel player. Like, I'm known as the lapel player in the gym. And I spent probably a year to a year and a half just playing lapel, and it's my jam. But I don't recommend it for like jumping all in and doing that. Same with like leg lockers. If you're a white belt and you start getting good at leg locks, and you can like start submitting upper belts. But as soon as you get to the point where you run into people with good defense, you have zero game. So you might have success quickly, but then you're going to have just a shit game after that. Submeta.io, I think it is. It's Lachlan Giles' website. They got a lot of good stuff on there. Even though Chris just tore Lachlan Giles to pieces, he has a good site. He's a great teacher. I like how he explains stuff. Very easy to understand. Very high level guy. He also has the B team stuff on his site now, so that's pretty interesting. So if you want to get deeper content from the B team, like Craig Jones and Nicky Ryan, Nicky Rod, J Rod, all these guys, you can do that because they have stuff that's not on their YouTube page will be on submeta.io. Then you have Gordon Ryan and Craig Jones. Their content is quite good as well, and their instructionals. And then that's my honorable mentions. I'm going to cough for a second. Excuse me. That was brutal. ADCC. I want to talk about that real quick. The ADCC trials in Europe just happened. If you didn't get a chance to watch it, I'll just give you at least my opinion. I didn't watch everything. I got to watch some of it. I wish I could watch more. I'm probably going to try to catch up as much as I can, but I watched a decent amount. If you just want like a crash course of what should I watch, I would say watch every Joseph Chen match. Chen, Chen, Joseph Chen. He won his division. Take note specifically of his back takes. His back takes, he took everyone's back. They are phenomenal. Not just his offensive back takes, but take note of his back defense, because he also got his back taken. But some of the stuff, how he was taking people's backs were very, very cool. Exciting matches. He basically had not just an ADCC trials, but like an ADCC like championship bracket. He beat I think it's Mateusz Sozinski, the Polish guy. Or Mateus or Martin, I can't remember his first name, but he had that guy. That dude's known as like the best footlocker in the game, basically. He broke Joseph Chen's foot actually last year. He snapped that bitch in half, like literally broke it. And so Joseph Chen got to get some revenge on him. Spoiler alert, And then Joseph Chen also had to go against Tommy Langacker, the number 5 ranked guy in that division, beat him. Tommy also twisted a guy earlier in that, so you can find that match. That's a pretty cool one. And then Joseph Chen had Oliver Taza in the finals. If you were to watch a match, I would definitely watch that one. If you're like, I just want to watch 1 or 2 matches. Joseph Chen, Oliver Taza, ADCC European Trials. Check that out. You get multiple back takes. You get Uchimatas and like stand-up game, which is pretty fun to watch. Scrambles, some good passing, good recovery, good guard retention from both guys. Really, really tough match. Really fun to watch. Super technical. And then I would say an honorable mention of checking out a guy named Owen Jones. He is, I believe, a purple belt that won his division. He's 19 years old. Joseph Chen, I think, is 18 years old. So these young guys, just like we had Nicky Ryan back in the day when he was really young. I think he was like 16 or something when he won trials. So there's all these really young dudes, the Rotolo brothers, yada, yada, Kolabate. But Owen Jones seems like a new name. He reminds me of William Tackett. Not as much Andrew Tackett, more William Tackett. But he's a young stud out of Europe that is making some waves. So check out his matches. Very cagey, but fun to watch. And that's it. That's going to be the episode, is just blowing it out by myself. So hopefully you stuck around. If you guys got any other questions, if this was entertaining, let me know. Because if we're thinking about doing other segments where I just go over some stuff. Maybe I go over matches and just talk them through from a technical side. We're thinking about doing like a doctor's corner with Chris, where he answers kind of a little bit more in-depth questions, just like specifically and like almost bite-sized. So a 10-minute kind of episodes. Olivia's going to do like makeup tutorials. It's going to be really fun. So other than that, I'll see you guys next week.